Welcome everyone. Welcome to the Introduction to ecoinvent version 3.5 webinar. My name is Lucia Valsasina. I'm a junior project manager here at ecoinvent, and I will be moderating this webinar while my colleague Emilia Moreno Ruiz, who is Deputy Director of ecoinvent, will carry on the presentation. Just a few information before we start. You're all muted. But you are welcome to write questions. You can see in your GoToWebinar window, you should have a tab which is called with the name questions. So please do write questions in the fields throughout the webinar, and we will stop in few occasions to take questions, and then there's going to be some time at the end of the presentation. We will try to answer as many questions as possible, and then we will try to, whatever stays unanswered, we will try to follow up via email. This webinar is recorded, and we will upload one of the recordings on the YouTube channel of ecoinvent in the next few weeks. And also, right after the webinar, a survey will pop up, which will also be, you will also have a link in a follow-up email. So we will be very grateful if you could fill out the few questions that we have prepared for you. And the last thing, you can always, just as a reminder, you can always contact us either at webinar@ecoinvent.org or support@ecoinvent.org. And with this, I give the word to Emilia.
Thank you, Lucia. So, yes, Lucia kindly introduced me already. My name is Emilia Moreno Ruiz, and I will be guiding you through this webinar today, which has three main parts. So in the first part of the webinar, I would like to introduce you to the version 3.5 that we released this summer. So what are the main contents of this new version? Then I would like to give you a flavor of what's coming in this year, in 2019, in the version 3.6. And finally, I would like to end with a guided tour, we call it, to ecoinvent functionalities, meaning I would like you to I would like to guide you to the use of our webpage, where we offer a variety of tools and documents that we think you can take advantage of. And finally, I would like to introduce you to the ecoQuery, which is the way to access the ecoinvent database through our own webpage, and also give you that access opens you the door to other functionalities and contents that you are maybe not enjoying in your different tools or software tools. Okay, so let's start by presenting ecoinvent 3.5. So ecoinvent 3.5 was released already last year in August 2018. We are keeping up the speed of a yearly release happening in the summertime. We updated quite some sectors, quite a list of sectors that I'm gonna now scroll down. And in each case, we were doing updates or even additional of data, or even creating new sectors that didn't exist before. So for example, we updated heavily the waste sector, Aluminium sector, Pulp and Containerboard productions. We completely renewed the hardcore sector. We added a new sector related to fish capture and aquaculture. We updated the electricity sector, the mixes, but also added some production activities. And we, in general, kept on improving the quality of our supply chains. Just to mention very shortly, we released version 3.5 to the public on the 23rd of August, and as far as we know, this version is already available in some softwares, such as Gabi, OpenLCA, and Umberto. Okay, let's go now to some details of the updates we have made for version 3.5, and I propose we start with the waste treatment and disposal mixes, so to the overall update we did on the waste sector. So with the version 3.5, we are providing access to around 150 new disposal activities that are modeled for different climatic conditions. What has to be considered that the main addition that those activities suppose to the database is that they model non-management of waste. So they model technologies that were not covered in the database until now, such as unsanitary landfill, open burning, and open dumping. And as I said, those activities will be distinguishing different infiltration classes, and so they will be reflecting different climatic conditions. On top of that, with the version 3.5, we have added around 500 new country-specific disposal mixes for the most common municipal waste fractions, such as waste glass, waste paper, waste plastics, etc. So those mixes, they are covering 37 European countries, and as well as emerging economies such as Brazil, Colombia, Peru, India, and South Africa. So that means that when, as a user, you would look at the disposal mix of a specific waste, such as we can take the example of waste glass. So now as a user, if you look at the disposal mix of waste glass in, for example, Brazil, you will see the contribution of all possible technologies, from incineration, sanitary landfill, unsanitary landfill, open burning, and open dumping. And depending on the country, of course, the relative contribution of one technologies or others will be higher or lower. So this is expansion of the waste management sector is really offering an increased granularity, as you see, in terms of treatment options and regional mixes. As I said, we also updated the aluminium sector. So basically the entire aluminium supply chain has been updated to the most recent available data, which is data from 2015, data provided by the International Aluminium Institute mainly. This update is including electricity production and also primary and secondary aluminium production for most regions of the world. In addition to that, new regional datasets for some activities have been added to the supply chain. So, for example, anode production or aluminium hydroxide and oxide production, providing a higher resolution and more transparency in those steps of the supply chain. So we were really trying to reflect the fast changes on the global trade of products within the aluminium supply chain with this update. The pulp production and containerboard sector has also benefited from improvements in the 3.5 version. So the pulp sector is now represented with the latest primary data on sulfate pulp production, data collected by the European Pulp Industry Sector Association, from data from 2015. So this is allowing, again, a higher level of granularity in the sulfate pulp supply chains. So now we are able to offer the distinction between bleached and unbleached kraft pulp, and also by type of pulpwood, so soft and hardwood. And similarly, with the version 3.5, we released the latest data from the Federation of Corrugated Board concerning the manufacturing of corrugated board, and this data is from 2014, and yeah, they will concern the supply chain, as I said, of corrugated board in Europe. Another key sector that has been heavily improved and updated for the 3.5 release is the hard coal sector. We have now, with the version 3.5, we are now able to cover more than 95% of the global hard coal supply chains with improved and enhanced data. And for that means that we have added new data on coal mining in India and South Africa, for example, including different types of mines. And we have also updated key emissions from coal mines, from coal mines all over the world. We have updated them, sorry, and they are now consistently implemented in all geographies. And finally, all imports and market data sets are now, they have been updated and are now reflecting global trade flows and also regional hard coal mixes in a more precise and updated way. As I said in the beginning, hard coal is a key sector, and of course this improvement, this update is reflected in the performance of a lot of downstream supply chains. So this is really a key update. It's also exciting to present this addition. So this is for the first time ecoinvent is publishing data on aquaculture and fish capture. So this is also a very exciting piece of data that we are publishing here. This data has been gathered in the framework of the Sustainable Recycling Industries project, SRI, which was funded by the SECO from the Swiss government. So now we are publishing new datasets related to anchovy, hake, and tuna capture. And on the side of aquaculture, we are publishing data related to trout and tilapia aquaculture. The geographical location is primarily Latin American. And of course, of course, associated to the capturing and aquaculturing activities, there's other activities related to processing into fish meal and oil, as well as other processing activities such as canning or freezing. Those activities have also been included now in the database. The all needed infrastructures, of course, for all those activities I mentioned before have also been added to the database, and this is covering from the vessels to the nets and needed for the capture to the floating cages needed for the aquaculture, and all going to different processing plants that are used for the different processing activities. The electricity sector has also been updated, and we also made some additions here. So we have added new data. We have added new technologies like electricity production on concentrated solar power from parabolic through and solar towers. Now this technology will be present in the countries where it is relevant, such as Australia, Spain, the US, or South Africa. So that means that the national mixes of those mentioned countries is now greatly improved because we have added better data on those technologies. And additionally, we have also updated some other mixes from version 3.5, like the UK mix. So now with the version 3.5, we are covering close to 100% of global electricity generation from statistically represented global electricity generation. So we are comprising 142 countries now. Okay, and there's as I said in the beginning, we made a constant effort to improve supply chain representation and linking of regional activities among themselves. So what have we done for the publication of 3.5 in order to improve, as I said, connectivity between data sets in the same region, and also to preserve a realistic supply chain structure, I would say. So a supply chain that it's really picturing reality as much as possible. So in order to ensure that, we have added hundreds of new regional markets, several concerning rail and road freight transport, and many more concerning chemical and waste. So the addition of those regional markets is ensuring that the supply chains will stay local as so far as this is needed. And also we have enhanced the linking between infrastructure and services from the infrastructure and services to their consumers in the same region. So the idea here is that infrastructure and services produced in one region should be consumed by activities in the same region, avoiding contributions from global markets in that case. Okay, and maybe I can stop here if there are questions, else I can continue.
There are no questions at the moment. Please, a reminder, feel free to write questions even throughout the presentation. Maybe just a few notes. So we talked about waste and we talked about electricity. And so a question that we get often is how a user can see the shares of this newly introduced technology, waste technologies for the different countries, the same for electricity. So just for you to know, further in the presentation, we will show you how exactly you can access this. So you can find the information for yourself, and then obviously anytime you have an issue, you can contact us directly. Okay, so I think we can continue.
Great. So let's then move to the next section on the webinar, which, as I said, it's about giving you a flavor of what's coming in 3.6, which will be released this year. So this next version, 3.6, will be published again in the summertime of 2019, and it will mean a big step when it concerns the coverage of data for emerging economies such as Latin America, India, and South Africa. In Latin America, I'm referring to Brazil, Colombia, and Peru mainly, because we will include we will publish with the 3.6 all data that was gathered during the SRI project that I mentioned before, which was a large project allowing us to really deep in the data for those countries. So, as I said, we will add data concerning the following sectors, and I will just list them quickly because I just want you to have an idea of what's coming. So we will add data to agriculture and animal husbandry, to the building material sector, to the electricity. We will have Brazil as another country where we will be able to distinguish the different grids. This is something we have done already for other large countries, and we will do in 3.6 for Brazil. We will have new data on freight transport. Of course, this will also benefit the global transport in the case of air and the sea transport. We will have additions to the metal sector. We will have additions and quite big restructuring on the textile sector, which will be much larger than it is now. And we will have also big restructuring on the water supply sector, where we will add new technologies in basically all water production activities. Okay, and with that, I would like to move to the last section of the webinar. Lucia said there are no questions, so keep on talking. And which this last part of the webinar is really, the idea is to have, to end up, or how would I say, our idea is to be able to give you a very practical introduction to the things you can access in our webpage. So it's really meant to be very practical and useful for you. So we are also happy if we get feedbacks from you, things that you would like to see more or less, or things that you would like to see improved. You can do that during the presentation, as Lucia said, type in questions, or you can also send us a small feedback after the webinar with the survey that Lucia also mentioned in the beginning. Okay, so let's start. So the idea is to focus on two aspects, one being the web page itself, so how to search and how to use all the materials we provide in the web page. And the other part is to show you the ecoQuery, how does it function and how to navigate in the ecoQuery, which, as I said, is the way you can access the ecoinvent database through the ecoinvent web page. So let's start with the web page. This is a screenshot of our web page, and there are three main things I would like to introduce to you. Three main tabs in this web page. One is the database section, because in the database section is where you have to go and dive if you want to know more about version 3, about this latest release and the previous releases, about our methodology, about the system models. You can be diving here and finding a lot of information. You can also go to the support section, and there is where you will have a very practical way of finding answers to your specific questions. And finally, just hinting that we have a free search function, which is this is here on the right side, and there you can also do a free search to find wherever you need. So let's maybe explore together a little bit the database section. And as you see in the database section, you can find information on the latest release, and as I said, general introduction to ecoinvent version 3, system models, methodology, etc. So let's see what happens when we click onto ecoinvent version 3.5, so the latest available release. And there you can see, again, three subsections, I would say. So you have a first part which will concern and explain everything related to new data and features. You will find a similar description of the one I have just made in the beginning of the webinar about which new data is included in 3.5, what did we update, etc. You will find a section called Report of Changes, which is in reality a big section, because it concerns, because it will describe using two documents, the change report PDF and the change report annex, which is an Excel file. It will describe all changes that we made from the previous released version, so version 3.4, to this published version 3.5. So it will explain you every addition of new data sets that we made, every correction that we made, every deletion eventually that we made. Everything will be listed here in a PDF report that you can read, and you can find and search for any data set where you saw changes to really read a description of the changes that were made. And you have the Excel change report annex, where you can really see a list of all flows of the database and what changed and what not. This change report annex is only accessible for licensees. The PDF report is accessible, of course, for everyone. And then we have, here you have also access to the correspondence file, which I'm going to present in a minute, but just to explain what it is, the correspondence file is a mapping file. It's a mapping file telling you the equivalences, quantitative, but also qualitative, between datasets existing in version 3.4 and datasets existing in version 3.5. It will tell you how to move from one version to the next without any bumps in your projects. And finally, there's the section on known issues, and here is where we report all issues that we are finding along the way related to the published version. So any issues that we will be finding related to 3.5 can be found here. And we normally report issues together with a solution. So if we have identified a mistake, we will tell you how to correct it in your version on your own tool or software, so you can address the issue as fast as possible. And of course, we address issues from one release to the next, so we can start with a clean section. Okay, let's go. As I mentioned before, I wanted to do a small zoom on the correspondence file. The correspondence file, as I said, it has to be perceived as a mapping file. This is a screenshot of the correspondence file. We really wanted to give you a very practical example so you understood the functionalities, and then you could go and dive more into the file if you needed it. So first thing, the document has a long README, so it has a README section, a README tab that we encourage you to read. So there you will also see explanations on how to use it. And let's just explain roughly the structure. So in the document you will find on the left side all coordinates related to version 3.4, so the previous released version. And I mean by coordinates, I mean the activity name, geography, the product name, the unit, the ISIC and CVC codes, everything. Here we're just showing a small part of it for the purpose of doing an easy and very understandable example, but this file is much larger than that. You see, so this is all the coordinates to version related to version 3.4, and then you will see all the coordinates related to version 3.5. Again, the same. Activity name, geography, product name, unit, etc. And here in the middle, between the two, the coordinates from the two versions, you will see the matching. This here is a quantitative matching. So, for example, the example we used, we thought it was a nice and easy one to follow. We used the example where this global activity, aluminum hydroxide production, that we used to have only represented as a global activity, has been now split into all the different geographies. Now all these 7 geographies, they cover the world. So we give an equivalence between what used to be this global activity and what are now all these regional activities that overlap and cover global completely. So as I said, in this column, but it's now highlighted with a blue circle, all regions together will sum up to 1. And you can see how the replacement is done quantitatively, region per region, and each of them will be, of course, contributing to this replacement to a different extent depending on the relative production volumes, and all together would sum up to 1. And here on the very right, you can see different kind of comments and different kind of more qualitative matching between different activities. But here you can also see the reasons for the change. You will also see comments and explanations and why did that change happen and how to cope with it. So this is done at the level of each system model, as you know, but I will also mention it later. We published 3 different system models, and we also published one undefined database. And this correspondence file will cover each of those, let's say, versions of the database. Okay. Then I would like to dive a little bit into the support section. The support section offers a lot of possibilities to get answers, precise answers to your questions. So, for example, it offers, it has a frequently asked questions section, and here you would see all the most requested frequently asked questions, but also all frequently asked questions organized per sections. You will also have access to a document and files section, and in document and file sections there is a direct access to a lot of documents that contribute to understanding the content of the released version of the content of the database, and also help you filtering and searching and diving into the content of the database itself. So you can find here again the report of changes. It's like a fast access to the report of changes, a fast access to correspondence file that I introduced, and also a fast access to the activity overview. And the activity overview is also another document that we would like to introduce to you, as we have done with the correspondence file. And it's again an Excel document that has also a very nice README section that I encourage you to read. Here you can see a screenshot of the activity overview. I will show you two screenshots. This first one concerns all information that the activity overview depicts related to activities. So if you look at the different headings of the different columns, you are able to filter or search or find your activity using a lot of parameters. So you are able to go and search for a specific activity using the activity name column, and this is Excel. So the filtering and the searching is very flexible and easy. So you can filter using the activity name or using the geography. Eventually you can constrain the time periods, or you can use ISIC, which is here in two columns, E and F. ISIC is a United Nations system for classification of activities. So if you want to have a more general and sectorial approach to an activity you're trying to find, you can try ISIC and try to filter that way. You can also find information related to the tags. Our activities can have tags. So, for example, all electricity production activities have a tag that correlate the activity to the specific technology of production. And you can also use a technology level. If you are using consequential, the technology level is something that is useful for you, as you know. And here you can also filter and try to see who are the marginal suppliers to a specific market using this technology level, for example. Similar to the activity description, there's a product part. You have to imagine the activity and product, they are one next to the other. So if I stopped in column K for activities, I'm following column L now for products. It's really one line per activity and product. And here again, you can search and filter. You can try to understand what is the content of the database, which products are here, which products are new, and what are the units, for example. And here, similar to ISIC, we also show a code that is called the CPC code. This is, again, the system from the United Nations for the classification of products, which can be useful if you're trying to do a more sectorial or large search into the database. We also have the activity overview also contain information that is useful if you're using cutoff or APOS system models, because we have here the classifications. So this helps you understanding also, why is this product behaving like this in APOS or in cutoff? Okay, I understand, because the classification is waste and wherever. So all those, all the columns are giving you key informations that are useful for different purposes. If you want to search, if you want to find, if you want to understand specific criteria or dimensions from the database, this is really a useful file to go and study. And this file has several tabs. as I said, there's the README tab, but there are also other tabs concerning elementary flows, etc. So you can really get a full picture of the content of the database using this activity overview, which is free and you can download it as a guest. So there's no restrictions on that. Okay, and apart from this long document and file section, we also have, associated to support, we also have all the webinars and recordings of previous webinars, and we give access to the forum of ecoinvent version 3. We are hosting this forum where we encourage you to post questions related to ecoinvent, and we also encourage you to answer them. If you see there are questions, you know the answer, we are very happy if you take the initiative and answer them. It's really a collaborative forum. It has not to be confused with the LCA list. The LCA list is really an emailing list, and it's hosted and powered by Pre. So it's a different thing. We try to encourage people to constrain themselves to the forum if the questions they have are related to ecoinvent version 3. And finally, if you didn't find your answers to your questions in any of the sections I have introduced to you, then you can still write us an email to support. Yes, the email address, and we will be happy to get in touch with you and find the answers to your questions. Okay, just to mention again, we have a search function, which is a free search, and then you can type keywords and be directed to wherever place in the web page the information is. Okay, then let's move to the last part of this webinar, which is an introduction to the ecoQuery. As I have said, the ecoQuery is the way you access the ecoinvent database through our web page. So, how do you enter the ecoQuery? Just the first very basic question. So if you are in our web page and you go all the way to the top right corner, you will see that Signal login databases. But there's where you have to click. And you can log in as a guest, which is free access. You just have to be registered, as you know. And as a guest, I would like to insist on that. You have a free access to our undefined database. That means that we give a free access to any user to our multi-output and allocated uniprocesses. This has always been the case, is still the case. You can log in as a licensee, where you have also access to the calculated system models, the 3 system models, you know, and with all the documentation. And also, of course, you have always access to the older versions. They are always accessible. Older versions such as version 2 or version 1, but also, of course, version 3.4, 3.3, 3.2, etc. And why would you go and explore the ecoinvent database through the ecoQuery? Well, there are several reasons. One is because we offer more information in the ecoQuery than the information that it's currently supported by the different tools. So we offer, more meta information, more parameters, mathematical formula, properties, etc. You will see a lot of that in the next slides. And we also offer all reports specific to sectorial data. We offer tools, etc. And we offer, again, for free for everyone, the undefined database. So we offer access only through ecoQuery. You can access the multi-output, unallocated, and linked uniprocess, which are free for everyone. And we are happy to share with you. So once you have clicked into the login databases, you will have the option to log into the version 3 or to even older versions like 1 or 2. So you can still log into older versions. If we keep up with the 3 version, you can have access, as I said, to 3.5, but also to the other ones, 3.4, 3.3, 3.2, all the way down to 3.01, 2013. So if you had access, you will keep on having access. Okay, once you have chosen the version 3 release that you wanted, so let's keep on the 3.5. You will now be able to select from which system model, or if it's from the undefined database, where do you want to do your search? What is that you want to explore? And you would be able to choose between exploring the undefined database, where here is where you can check the uniprocess at the unlinked and unallocated, also before substitution activities that are the basis for calculating the other systems. And as I said, this is only accessible in the ecoQuery. You can also access the allocation cutoff by classification, I mean the 3 system models. And as you see, when you are selecting one system model or another, it will always come with a small description. So it's also trying to help you on your choices. I mean, you should probably know which system model is the one you want to use, but this is a refreshing video memory with a short description. So we had a short description related to undefined database, and then each system model will have a short description as well. So allocation cutoff by classification, allocation at the point of substitution, substitution consequential long-term. So once you have decided, you can go into the advanced search. We also have a simple search, but advanced search will allow you to search using product name, activity name, eventually location or activity type. Is it a market? Is it a normal transforming activity? Using the IFIC codes that I have shown you in the activity overview. And again, you can select here the system models or the undefined database. What would you get when you select the undefined database? So the undefined database, you will be able to explore the uniprocesses representing the gate-to-gate activities, and you will be able to download PDF reports. I will explain what is the content and what do they look like. Those PDF reports, those are reports that are per dataset. So I will go to that in a minute. And as I said, you have access to undefined database as a guest or as a licensee. With any of the 3 system models, you have access to the linked uniprocesses, to the LCI and LCIA results. And you also can download the PDF reports. So before showing you the PDF reports, let's show you how do datasets look like in the ecoQuery. So that's a dataset in the ecoQuery. This is corrugated box production. And as you can see, there are several buttons on the top side. There are a few things you can do with it, including downloading the PDF documentation. So what do you see here? Okay, you see general comment. It's a bit cut, but you can see, also you will see it again on the PDF screenshots. You see it supports pictures, it supports a lot of text, it supports schemes, it also supports tables. So you really get a large general comment and comments also on the technology level, all kind of comments concerning the background information of the dataset can be read and found here. You can also see the source, so where was this data published, and the authors, which is also important. And when you go to the exchanges, so for example, if we dive down, we scroll down to the list of exchanges of this dataset corrugated board box production, we will see an input of potato starch, and we will see a comment. So the comment in that case will explain how the potato starch input was calculated, and then it explains mathematical relation that you can also see here. So you can really see how this input was calculated and why. And eventually, in that case, it also refers to a source, because some inputs or flows from some data sets might relate to a different source than the general source where the inventory is published, and we support this source field as a workflow. And if you scroll down more, you will see properties related to this reference product, which is corrugated board box. So you will see the 5 compulsory properties related to mass, which are carbon content, fossil and non-fossil, dry mass, and a lower down water content, water in wet mass and wet mass. You will also see price, and you will also see true value. True value is reflecting the allocation factor. Of course, it's only present if there's allocation happening in the dataset, but if you have, in that case, we have put together the 2 products that are allocated in corrugated board box production, just corrugated board box and residual softwood wet. And here you can see the true value for each of them. Together, you can calculate the allocation key. And that brings me to the presentation of the PDF report and slowly to the end of the webinar. So you can download from each of the datasets in ecoinvent a PDF report that is basically summarizing all that you are also able to see in ecoQuery and that we have seen now together in the few previous slides. So this is the PDF report from the corrugated board box production. You have the general comment with images and tables, the source of the data, technology level, schemes, and the full inventory. And as I said, each flow with its comments and the source information. And importantly, through, for example, some softwares, like for example, Sima Pro, you can click on the URL in Sima Pro and be directed to those PDF reports. So those PDF reports are really downloadable pieces of information related to each of our datasets, and they are very useful and handy when you're trying to compile information from different points. I would like just to drive your attention to the fact that here in the flow description, we will show also the relative contribution to the total score of all flows using some selected methods that you can see highlighted on the top of the slide. So there's really, you can find really a lot of information on those PDF reports. And finally, just let's go quickly through the files section, also in the ecoQuery. This is a section where you can find basically all LCI and LCIA matrices, and together with the supporting information for the implementation of LCIA methods, and the report section where you can see all the different sectorial reports we have published related to agricultural sector, electricity production, and we are slowly adding more. Here you can also find some Excel files. You can see them listed at the very bottom, market composition and electricity market composition, where you can see listed all markets present in the database and the different their composition in terms of who are the suppliers and how much are they contributing to the market composition. So with that, I would like to conclude. I don't know if maybe now we have some more questions.
Maybe since we are on this slide, one note on the electricity market composition file. What you can also find here is, because the electricity market, if you look at the market yourself, you have the production of the country itself plus the imports. And in this Excel file, we add in an additional information that allows you to look at the consumption mix of the country, where the imports, where you have the technology shares, including also the imports. So you can see the overall, for example, how much nuclear actually contributes to the specific mix of the country. There may be another thing regarding to one of the questions received. If Emilia, if you could go back to the slide about the potato starch, the one about the exchange. So if we're talking about documentation of the exchanges, as Emilia explained, you can go into ecoEditor and look at the unit process. So you look at and then you can scroll down to look at the exchanges, and then there you have the different information about exchanges. So for example, in this slide, Emilia shows how you have the comment, there could be a source, there could be mathematical relations, there could be parameters that are used in for exchanges, and parameters are also recorded in the same page. You just have to scroll down right at the bottom, but everything is reported there. And additionally, for example, here you can see right above mathematical relation, there is the activity link. And here it's reported market for potato starch global. And this indicates where this potato starch is taken from for this specific data set, for this specific exchange. Potato starch comes from the global market. So this is an additional information that you can find looking at the data set in ecoQuery. And this should give you all the information about an exchange. And once again, in case of questions, you can always contact us and we can help you find maybe some information you might be missing. Maybe other few pointers. There's also a geography Excel, which is available on the ecoinvent website in the support section. And you can always, if you're unsure or if there's any mistake, for a specific release of ecoinvent, you can always look into the known issues section for that release. And yeah, I think if there's no other question, in the meantime, I can give you a few other information. So you're always welcome to join the newsletter of ecoinvent. You can find it in the About and News section of the ecoinvent website, or you can send us an email and we will add you to our newsletter. So you can receive all the news about the releases of ecoinvent and, for example, future webinars, then you can receive the invitations and the information about this. And once again, to remind you that there will be a short survey popping up at the end of the presentation, and it will also be in a link in the follow-up email you will receive soon after. And yeah, you can always contact us at webinar@ecoinvent.org or support@ecoinvent.org. So as there are no further questions, we would like to thank you for participating, and we really appreciate if you give us some feedback in the survey so that we can organize more webinars and more webinars targeted to what you are interested in. So thank you all.
Yeah, thank you very much. And yeah, goodbye.